Formula One 2025 testing is complete. And we have gone through 3 days at Bahrain, and there are a few things that we can discuss here. Of course, through testing, you never really learn too much. Any relative comparisons between teams is difficult. Even relative comparisons between drivers within a team is difficult because we really don't know what they're trying to achieve. It's entirely possible that Jack Doohan has a completely different run plan than does Pierre Gasly. Let's start with Williams because I'm a big Carlos Sainz fan. Now, Williams is encouraging. I think really for everyone in F1, we want to see Williams do well. Williams has, of course, incredible history, and its recent history is not. So everyone wants to see Williams do well. Carlos Sainz, of course, sets the fastest time over 3 days. Does that mean that he and Albon are going to be locking out the grid? Absolutely not. We would expect them to maybe be good midfielders. It's going to be difficult to say, but the thing is that Carlos Sainz did put down a fast time on the C3 tire. It was just a couple tenths off of Max's pole time from last season. Now, of course, the temperature conditions, the grip, and everything was very different. The driver said on day 2 that the track was very fast. That was the day that Carlos set his best time. So, Williams looking pretty good. Now, moving on to Red Bull. Not a typical Red Bull time. It was not exactly clear sailing. They had some moments behind the screens. They had less run time than you'd certainly expect. They weren't blazing times again. There's the caveat. Who cares about times? But we have seen in the past when Red Bull has had a good car, you could see it in testing. It was really obvious. So the fact that it is not obviously a barn burner, I think gives us some questions. So we'll see. Interestingly, we have Lawson that says he likes the car. He says it is easy to work with. Now, that is very different from what we've heard from other people that have tried partnering up with Max Verstappen. So I doubt Verstappen likes the car very much. If he likes the car, most people are going to hate it. It's just going to be so pointy that Max can perform those incredible passes like the last-minute passes on Hamilton in Abu Dhabi and the, of course, most controversial world championship of all time. I mean, those passes were unbelievable. The car was on the nose. Doesn't look like that is the case here if Lawson is having feelings of comfort in the car. We'll see. Maybe he likes the same car as Max. We don't know. On to Mercedes. Wow, Kimi Antonelli. I think he's maybe the real deal. He is, or appears to be, an absolute racer. He just goes out, I want to go fast, show me how to go fast, I'm going to go fast. And probably best seen by his outing last season when he wrecked the car at Parabolica. I think we're going to see some really exciting stuff out of Kimi Antonelli. I think George Russell is going to have a real competitor there. On to Racing Bulls. Great livery, but it just doesn't look like they've got a great platform underneath them. It doesn't look like they really understand how inputs into suspension changes and so forth are really affecting how the car performs. I think we've got some really vocal and excitable drivers inside the Red Bulls, and we're going to get some very interesting radio communications from them. On to McLaren. I still think they're going to win the championship. I think everyone thinks they're going to win the championship. They just seem solid. The car looks good. It seems to ride the curbs very well. You've got, of course, 2 great drivers. Lando Norris, probably your world champion for this year. I think with Red Bull's problems, Max isn't going to be that much of a competition. I think the Ferrari is going to be closer to Mercedes than it will be to McLaren. So I bet you're going to see number 4 as your world champion at the end of this year. Kick Sauber, oof. Yeah, other than looking like they are stars in a Nickelodeon program, we don't see too much great coming from Sauber. I think Audi says, we are a factory team. We are going to come in as Audi and we are going to be good. I think they're going to put everything into the 2026 car. I don't think that is a very creative prediction, but that's the likely scenario. Ferrari looks good. Lewis looks great in that yellow helmet in the red car. I will say that. I still think Leclerc is going to beat him. I think Leclerc, again, is going to be really solid because of the presence of Lewis Hamilton. I think Hamilton's really going to show him what it's like to succeed. I think Leclerc is going to be a much more conservative, and I think Leclerc is going to be a much more consistent driver this year. Consistency certainly has been his problem, not this year. The car, we'll see how it goes. Looks like it is competing with Mercedes, so we're going to see some really nice battles there. How will it be to see Lewis beating Kimi Antonelli? Some people love that, and some people hate that. Now, Haas, pretty interesting test for him. Slow, yes. Again, times really don't matter too much, but they were still pretty slow on days 1 and 2. On day 3, they let Ocon give it a little welly, and did all right. It looks like their qualifying time is a little better than their race pace time at the moment, which harkens back to the terrible old days where we used to just watch the Haas cars drop back in the field and, cry along with the drivers. That was pretty miserable. And I hope because of all the testing, just the miles after miles after miles, they are going to get good concurrence between the simulations and the real world data that they collected through rakes and things like that. Alpine, of course, has Gasly and Doohan, and they got some good time in the car. Gasly put in some laps that were pretty good. Again, caveats apply, but at least it shows it has some potential. The fact that they've got a lot of run time as well tells us that, again, they have a good understanding with the car. They've got something good and solid and reliable underneath them, and that allows them to build forward. So I think Alpine looking like maybe a 5th place this season. Could be pretty good. Williams, Alpine doing better. Such a turnaround from last year. It's going to be really exciting to see what's going on with those two teams battling out on track. And finally, we get to Aston Martin. Aston Martin, not a great test from them. Not a lot of track time. They were really close to the bottom when it came to the number of laps run, and that's just not great. I think they are just going to be, again, this year like the team the last year where they kind of disappoint. We expect so much more with all the money that is in that team. Of course, have Adrian Newey coming in. He is a genius, but he's just one individual. He's part of a team, well, paid part of that team, but he's still part of the team. We don't know what input he's going to have on 2025. I think at some point, maybe early on, they might get a little desperate and say, hey, can you take a look at what we're doing here? But certainly the 2026 car, that's what he's there for. He's not there to help Aston Martin over one season. He's there to help Aston Martin over a number of seasons. And the way to do that is to influence the brand new collection of cars. If they get 2026 right, 27, 28, 29, 30, those are going to be good years as well. Certainly, Mercedes showed us that. Anyway, that's my takeaways from testing. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you later.